There are animals you can cage with steel, animals you can control with fences, and animals you can keep exactly where you left them. And then there is the octopus. An octopus does not experience a barrier the way most creatures do. It experiences a puzzle. A seam is not a wall. A latch is not security. A small opening is not a dead end. To an octopus, confinement is often just an unanswered question. That is why aquariums, researchers, and marine keepers have spent decades learning the same unnerving lesson. If an octopus wants out, the issue usually is not strength in the ordinary sense. It is design. Because the animal trying to escape is one of the strangest combinations evolution has ever assembled. A body with no bones, a mind built for exploration, arms that can operate with eerie independence, and a temperament that turns every weakness in a container into an invitation. So when people ask why it is physically impossible to keep an octopus locked up, they usually imagine some single superpower. Maybe it is intelligence, maybe it is flexibility, maybe it is brute force. The real answer is worse for whoever built the enclosure. It is all of those things at once, stacked together inside an animal that seems specifically engineered to punish bad assumptions. Start with the body, because this is where the nightmare begins. A common octopus does not have bones, joints, or a rigid skeleton to stop it from reshaping itself. According to NOAA fisheries and aquarium experts, the only hard part of an octopus is its beak. That means if the beak can fit through an opening, the rest of the body usually can too. Not the arms only, not part of the mantle, the entire animal. What looks to us like a gap too small for anything larger than a mouse can be, to an octopus, a workable exit route. This is not a theory. It is the logic behind some of the most famous escapes ever recorded. National Geographic reported that Inky, a common New Zealand octopus, slipped out of his tank through a small opening, crossed the facility, entered a narrow drain pipe, and disappeared into the ocean. Aquarium staff followed the wet trail afterward and reconstructed the route like detectives after a prison break. Marine biologists interviewed for the story were not shocked. Their reaction was basically this: yes, that is what octopuses do. And even if you eliminate obvious gaps, the next problem arrives immediately. Most animals encounter surfaces with paws, claws, or hooves. An octopus encounters the world with 8 muscular arms covered in suckers, each one capable of gripping, probing, and gathering information. University of Chicago researchers explained in 2025 that the octopus arm is backed by a massive nervous system, with more neurons distributed across the 8 arms than in the central brain itself. Those arms are not dumb ropes attached to a smart head. They are active sensing tools. That matters because an octopus does not just push randomly against glass until something gives. It investigates, it maps, it feels the edge of a lid, the looseness of a cap, the resistance of a hinge, the shape of a lock. The suckers can taste and smell what they touch, which means an octopus explores a barrier in a way that is almost impossible for us to intuit. Imagine if your fingers could grip like plungers, think in segments, and chemically inspect every surface they touched. A sealed container would stop looking sealed very quickly, then add dexterity. The same University of Chicago work showed that the nerve cord in the arms is segmented in a way that helps control extraordinarily flexible motion. That is why octopus movement can look less like ordinary grasping and more like liquid engineering. The arms bend, twist, curl, anchor, brace, pull, and stabilize simultaneously. One arm can test a corner, while another holds the body in place. One can distract, another can pry, another can reach deeper into a crevice than seems anatomically possible. It is like trying to imprison 8 escape artists who share a common objective. And this is where intelligence enters the story. The popular image of intelligence is often social. Wolves cooperating, dolphins communicating, primates scheming. Octopus intelligence feels different. It is practical, physical, improvisational. Monterey Bay Aquarium notes that giant Pacific octopuses can learn to open jars, solve puzzles, and interact with caretakers. Noah says, common octopuses in aquariums need enrichment to stay active and engaged, including feeding puzzles, changing structures, and objects to manipulate. In other words, a bored octopus is not a calm octopus. It is an underemployed problem solver. That is what makes confinement so unstable. Locks are not merely obstacles. They are enrichment. Lids are challenges. Tubes are possibilities. A bottle with a fish inside is not only a feeding device, but a test of mechanical reality. In one popular experiment, an octopus confronted a twist-top container that handlers expected it to unscrew. Instead, it forced off the sealed top in a way even the humans struggled to reproduce underwater. That moment matters, because it reveals the core mistake humans keep making. We design one route into a problem. The octopus notices three we did not consider. Flexibility alone would make them hard to contain. Intelligence alone would make them risky to underestimate. But octopuses also come equipped with camouflage so advanced it makes enclosure monitoring unreliable. The South Carolina Aquarium describes how octopuses can rapidly change color using chromatophores and alter skin texture with papillae, going from smooth to rough in moments. Monterey Bay Aquarium calls it one of the most sophisticated camouflage systems in the animal world. So now imagine trying to track a soft-bodied, puzzle-solving animal that can flatten itself, darken itself, texture itself, and visually dissolve into the exact corner where you stopped looking. There is also the issue of force, which people tend to underestimate because the octopus looks soft. Soft does not mean weak. A body made of muscle can anchor itself with multiple arms, create leverage from strange angles, and apply pressure where a rigid animal would lose purchase. Suckers do not merely cling. They let the octopus hold one surface while another arm peels, twists, or drags against something else. That is why jars get opened, rocks get moved, shells get pried apart, and seals that seem annoyingly firm to human fingers can suddenly fail under repeated, intelligent contact. The animal does not need to bench press a lid. It only needs one exploitable point, enough grip to stabilize itself, and enough persistence to keep testing. In captivity, that persistence is amplified by routine. Feeding time teaches associations. Cleaning time reveals opportunities. Even water flow can become a clue, because currents expose outlets, drains, and the direction of possible escape. An octopus is not just inside the environment. It is studying the operating system of the environment. And there is still another problem: motivation. Octopuses are curious. National Geographic described Inky as inquisitive and boundary-pushing. Aquarium keepers repeatedly describe octopuses as learners, manipulators, and escape artists. Real Science's widely viewed breakdown of octopus biology emphasizes that their intelligence evolved under intense ecological pressure. Losing the protective shell of ancestral cephalopods may have forced octopuses toward camouflage, agility, and rapid decision-making as substitutes for armor. In simple terms, they survived by becoming the kind of animal that treats uncertainty as a task instead of a threat. That evolutionary history matters in captivity. A cow does not need to understand the fence. A bird may test it once or twice, then stop. An octopus keeps collecting data. Every feeding, every cleaning cycle, every moment a lid is placed back slightly imperfectly, every shift in water flow, every reflected movement outside the glass. The animal is always receiving information, and its body is built to act on that information with absurd precision. Even the timeline works in the octopus's favor. Many species live short lives. Monterey Bay Aquarium gives the giant Pacific octopus roughly 3 to 5 years, which is long for an octopus, while other species may live only 1 to 2. Short life histories often go hand in hand with fast growth, intense behavior, and a biology that does not waste time. An octopus does not need years to become interesting. It becomes dangerous to your enclosure almost immediately. So is it truly physically impossible to keep an octopus locked up? In the absolute sense, no. Humans can always escalate. Thicker acrylic, redundant seals, specialized life support systems, obsessive keeper protocols. But that answer misses the real point. With most captive animals, containment is primarily about strength. With an octopus, containment becomes an arms race against softness, dexterity, curiosity, and distributed intelligence. You are not just building a tank, you are building a continuous argument against a body that can flow, a mind that can improvise, and 8 exploratory limbs that never stop negotiating with matter. That is why the octopus feels less like an animal inside a prison and more like a jailbreak already in progress. Every wall is a question, every gap is a route, every object is a tool waiting to be redefined. And the creature testing that system is not panicking, it is thinking, calmly, patiently, physically thinking with its whole body until the container stops being a home, stops being a laboratory, stops being a lock, and becomes what it was always going to become in the presence of an octopus, a temporary suggestion. At that point, the only real question is how long the suggestion lasted. If you like this video, so subscribe and share it with your friends.